So you might be wondering if your heart is beating regularly, perhaps wondering how you will know that your rhythm is normal. Is it something you can check yourself? If so, how? Well, the 5th to the 11th of June is World Heart Rhythm Week. Now, Heart Rhythm Week is aimed at raising awareness and promoting better understanding of heart rhythm disorders, or better known as arrhythmias. Now, this year's World Heart Rhythm Week focus is identifying the undiagnosed person. Now, as the saying goes, check your pulse, become arrhythmia aware. So today we focus on arrhythmias. By the end of this show, you'll hopefully understand all about heart rhythm disorders, including causes, risk factors, treatment, and how you can be arrhythmia aware. Now, helping us with this is a specialist cardiologist and electrophysiologist from Mill Park Hospital in Johannesburg. We'll also get a personal account of what it is like being diagnosed and treated successfully from a nearly fatal attack of arrhythmias. Now, you may want to be part of the show by asking us some questions, or simply just sharing your views with us. In that case, the number to call is Johannesburg 714-6918 or 6919. You can also tweet us at SABC Health Talk and simply just interact with us on our Facebook page, SABC Health Talk. So sit back, relax, and learn from this exciting show coming to you just after a short break. I'm Dr. Silo Madaung, and this is Health Talk.
About what happens when we put our differences aside and we come together as a human race.
Salt makes its way out of the kitchen into the art studio.
Normally, salt is for food and stuff, but then here's salt.
The past couple of months, I've grown so much, and I'm just ready to impart what I've learned to the next Miss South Africa.
I wasn't expecting this. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm feeling so overwhelmed.
For your weekly dose of entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
Africa is getting more and more digitized, and people have to navigate through an increasingly connected world.
I did a call my bay over here.
At school, I use my Wi-Fi.
On Network, we tell you about Africa's technology and social media landscape.
Politicians already do use Twitter a lot.
It's both Android and iOS compatible.
A solar-charged box that includes everything, the computer, the projector.
That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 9 p.m.
He loved people. He just loved his family. He adored his siblings. But most of all, Brad enjoyed a party. He loved a great time. He loved Diet Coke.
Bradley was his own man. He loved being with us. He didn't care what other people thought about him. He didn't care what other people thought were the norms or anything. He was just Brad.
Nobody could prepare me for the loss of a child. Holding him in my arms, begging him to breathe, begging him to come back to life was just the single most unbearable feeling.
that's when they found that my mom is a carrier of the gene, as well as my other brother, Chris. I had the SICD put in, and it was such a relief to know that I'm going to be protected against cardiac death, but that I can also live like a normal 29-year-old who likes to travel and exercise and do all these different things.
After losing one son and vowing that we weren't going to lose anybody else, we couldn't get the devices in fast enough.
It is reassuring to know that I have this device monitoring my heart, monitoring me, and also my family.
Losing a son leaves a hole in your heart that just never fills. We are reminded just how blessed we are that we still have Jenny and Chris, and we probably smother them because we're so appreciative that they're still with us.
When you go through trials like this, you can either grow apart or you can grow together, and our family has definitely grown together. Family is everything.
Family is everything indeed. Now, we're going to learn more about all of these other issues about, ICDs and all of these devices that they're talking about. But for now, we're going to start learning just the basic stuff about what these arrhythmias are. And with me in studio, it's a special pleasure for me to welcome Dr. Pro Obel. Now, Dr. Obel is a specialist cardiologist and electrophysiologist and is based at Mill Park Hospital in Johannesburg. Welcome to Health Talk, Dr.
Thank you
Pro.
very much.
Right. As I said, let's start from the basics. What are these arrhythmias?
Well, there are a variety of arrhythmias. What we have to say is an arrhythmia, just to define it for a start, it's a departure from the normal rhythm of the heart.
Right.
The heart has a normal rhythm, which means that the rhythm of the heart is organized so that the chambers of the heart beat in a synchrony that is such that it propels the blood through in the most efficient possible way, and in a way that is synchronized so that it is best suited for your activity at the present time.
Right.
So it'll be slow and steady when you're sleeping and faster when you exercise, and everything in between.
So we said departure from the normal.
Yeah.
What is the normal in terms of what people watching this program may be thinking about?
Well, the normal heart rate can vary with various people.
Right.
One person's normal heart rate may be usually around 70 or so, but it may be as low as 60 or even 58 or 55.
Okay.
And it can be as high as 90.
So what we're saying is people should know what their normal heart rates are.
Absolutely.
Right. We're going to come back and talk about just exactly how they can do that, measuring their own pulses. But let's come back to arrhythmias now. We said that these are abnormal heart rhythms, as it were.
Yeah.
You often hear about, first, maybe before we talk about types, how common are these? Is it a common problem?
Well, abnormal rhythms are a fairly common problem.
Right.
But more important than that is that when they occur, they can have very important consequences.
Right.
And they can have important consequences in people who are otherwise very well.
Good.
And I think that came up in some of the introductions that we saw. We saw very well people in those introductions who had important arrhythmias, or who were being treated for the prevention of very important arrhythmias, which had been identified because something had been found in a family member who had died suddenly or had presented with an abnormal rhythm.
Okay. So coming back to do we have different types of these?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Can you perhaps just take us through? I would imagine there's the fast types and there's the slow types. However easy you may want to make this for us.
Okay. Well, let's start with the fast types and the slow types.
Right.
Right. If a very common arrhythmia, let's go with the early ones from a historical point of view. The first thing we learnt how to treat were the very slow ones.
Mm-hmm.
We learned about the slow ones because the connection between the top chambers and the bottom chambers is linked with a beautiful little conducting system of wires, beautiful connecting wires. And it was found that some people didn't have very good wires. And because the conduction wasn't good, the heart became too slow. And sometimes the heart stopped. And because there was no good medication that could get those wires connected, we learned how to put a wire in the place of those abnormal wires. Okay. Those things are pacemakers.
Right. So talk about these wirings, just to to further make it easier. We're saying that these are the wires that are embedded in the heart that control the normal beating of the heart. Okay. Correct?
So the top chamber, which we call the atria,
right.
The atria on the right side, we'll talk about that. That houses the basic conductor of the whole system.
Right.
We call that the sinus node. Okay. And now that receives impulses from the whole body, and that tells you, I want to go faster because I'm going to be running. I want to go slower because I want to be sleeping, and everything in between. Okay. And that sends the impulse down to the pumping chambers in the bottom part of the heart, and that sends the blood through and pumps it faster and, as it happens, harder for the appropriate time. Mm-hmm. When that pumping system, that conducting system is disrupted, you've got to do something to bridge the gap. Mm. And that's where the pacemakers came into.
All right.
So those are what we call the bradyarrhythmias, brady meaning slow.
Okay.
The slow arrhythmias.
Are there any signs and symptoms, perhaps more important for the public, symptoms associated with these?
Okay, so the symptoms, of course, will be tiredness, or in the worst instance, episodes of dizziness or even unconsciousness. So let's say for a start, whenever you're not getting an adequate blood flow to your brain, you will lose consciousness. Okay, so there are various reasons that you won't get an adequate blood flow to your brain, and that is that the heart is not pumping efficiently. Okay, so if it won't pump efficiently either because it's not pumping at all, in other words, it's going too slow, or there is an abnormality of the beat, which is so disorganized that it can't pump. And we'll talk about those later, and that's when it's going too fast to be organized.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've spoken about the slow ones.
The fast ones now.
Now we talk about the fast ones.
Right.
So when it goes too fast, we have to do something to slow it down or to organize it. Mm. Sometimes we can't organize it with medications. Then what we have to do is we say, hey, this thing is going too fast. Get it out of that fast rhythm. How do we do that? We found out that we can give it a shock, bang, it goes back to a slow rhythm, and then it comes back to a normal rhythm.
As we see it in the movies.
As we see it in the movies. That's what we call a defibrillator.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So are there many different types of the fast ones and many different types of the slow ones?
Indeed there are. There are fast ones which are organized, and there are fast ones which are disorganized.
Okay. Related question, symptoms associated with the fast ones.
Symptoms associated, let's go slowly now. Symptoms which are associated with the fast organized ones, now those occur when the conducting system is normal and it's going fast, but not terribly fast. Okay.
Right.
We're going up to beats around 200 a minute, something like that. Okay, those symptoms are a feeling of your heart beating very fast. And a lot of people get those feelings. And we get particularly impressed with those feelings because all of us sometimes feel, you get a fright, you feel your heart beats fast. Now, that's normal. But if you're sitting, as you are now, in a nice relaxed way, and suddenly your heart beats fast, well, that's abnormal. It shouldn't be so. And that's something you should take notice of and discuss with your medical attendant.
Okay, so having spoken about all of this, okay, why should we worry about arrhythmias? What is the normal clinical course? Are there any complications associated with, I suppose, untreated ones?
Yeah. Well, of course, it depends on the type of arrhythmia. As you saw in your introduction, some of those people had arrhythmias which caused them to die. And those have to be treated.
Okay.
And there's a variety of treatments depending on the arrhythmia.
Right. We're going to come back to treatment and perhaps even answer the most important question. What causes these things and who's at risk? Well, we're going to take a short break. After the break, we carry on with our discussion on arrhythmias. Please stay with us.
I'm Alicia Jali, joining us live from our Johannesburg studios. A quick look now at your current news leaders. Parliament's Communications Committee has decided on 5 names to sit on the SABC's interim board. And the Constitutional Court has directed Social Development Minister Bathabile Dlamini and her department to account for their handling of the social grants contract.
And in tennis, Serena Williams has withdrawn from the BNP Paribas Open in Indian Wells and the Miami Open due to a left knee injury.
We're expecting it to move just in the towards the southern parts of the country, not so much coming towards southern Africa, not even touching the Mozambique channel. It's just going to move back towards the Indian Ocean.
Stay tuned to News Today, Monday to Friday from 3 to 5:30 p.m. Well, a very good morning and welcome to AM News live at 10:00 hours across all Central Africa regions.
A fitting send-off for a revolutionary giant, a life dedicated in service of the people.
The result means that the Swallows are out of the ABC Multiple League and drop to the amateur 4th tier of South African football, the SAB League.
Tune in on AM News every Saturday and Sunday from 10 hours.
Do you support the calls made by Blayton Nzimande and Solly Mapaila?
It is not a call by Comrade Solly Mapaila and Comrade Blayton Nzimande. It is the position of the party.
Yes.
And the position of the party, we support it unambiguously.
Why?
The theory of the revolution, in simple terms, was that revolutionary forces are going to take charge of the state. And having taken charge of the state, they are going to transform the state to eventually transform society.
Join me in Port Zedu live every Monday to Thursday at 17:30.
If we can join our hands together against the ills of our society, we can build a better nation. One youth, one South Africa.
Welcome back. We're talking arrhythmias, and with me in the studio is Dr. Pro Obel, specialist cardiologist and electrophysiologist at Milk Park Hospital. And we were just talking about, the complications. But before we carry on with complications, let's take Rose on the line from Devon. Rose, welcome to Health Talk.
Good morning.
Morning, Rose.
Okay, I just wanted to find out from the doctor. I had my pacemaker put in May.
Yes.
And now, in September, I have to go back again. They said they have to give me some injection. Now, I just wanted to ask the doctor, what injection is that actually?
All right. Thank you very much for the question. She's had a pacemaker inserted in May. She's told that she's going to go back in September and she needs an injection. What injection could that be?
I really don't know.
All right.
I have no idea.
Yeah, all right. Rose, it's a bit of a difficult one if we don't know all the facts. No. But I think the important thing to do is go back to your doctor and get the doctor explain all of these issues around, your pacemaker.
No,
all right. Let's carry on that discussion then about, the possible complications from arrhythmias.
Okay, well, a lot depends on the kind of arrhythmia. Let's get to the the most serious complication. If the heart goes far too slow, you can lose consciousness. If you lose consciousness, it's a matter of how long you lose consciousness for. If you lose consciousness for too long, you lose consciousness forever. You die. The same thing applies if your heart goes too fast. So if it's going over 220, 230, and if it goes on for too long, it will become so discoordinate, it will deprive itself of its own blood supply, and it won't work again, and you will die. So those are the most severe complications. Other complications are just one step back from that, and that would be episodes of loss of consciousness. Now, you can imagine that if you're driving and you lose consciousness, that can be a very serious event. If you lose consciousness while you're walking and falling, you can fall and hurt yourself. Any kind of loss of consciousness can be a serious episode with serious consequences. Taking it further, there's the question of just dizzy episodes. You can imagine what that does to somebody's self-confidence. If you're getting episodes where you're not in control of yourself, that can be a very serious thing as well. If they are less than that, and you feel that you're just not in control and you feel terrible, that also is a terrible thing. And that's something that can really have a very serious effect on your life. Now, if one of the common arrhythmias, which I think we must discuss at the moment, is if the top chamber of your heart, the atrium, goes very fast, it's a thing we call atrial fibrillation, goes very, very fast indeed, it doesn't propel the blood normally. So the blood stagnates. When it stagnates, in other words, it doesn't get through and doesn't get pumped through quickly enough, it can form clots. Those blood clots can then go through and out into the body, and particularly into the brain, and cause strokes. So that's another major problem that can result from that.
Okay, we've learned all about this now, and people probably watching this are saying, okay, now, am I at risk? You know, what causes all of these things? Who's at risk of developing arrhythmias and all of these conditions we've spoken about?
Well, there's a wide variety of people who are at risk. There are those who are born with the arrhythmias. There are people who've got heart disease of other kinds who will develop the arrhythmias. And there are a large group of young people who have arrhythmias from which they can get better. They are born with a small abnormality, usually in the form of an extra little conduction cable between the top and the bottom chambers. And that causes very rapid arrhythmias which come and go at inconvenient times.
So you may be born with some of these things. Okay.
You can be born with some of them.
Let's take Andrew on the line from Johannesburg. Andrew, welcome.
Yes, I'm self-employed. I've got a problem of my chest. If I dig like the trench, I've got a pain in my chest. So I want to ask you about what is the cause that thing to. If I work hard, I've got a pain in my chest.
Yeah, okay. I suppose, Dr. Bell, this is a more general question about, pain in the chest. And your comment?
If he gets pain in the chest when he works hard, it needs an assessment because there are a number of causes for that. The most important cause that we're concerned about is this pain due to lack of oxygen to the heart muscle, for which there may be a cause in his coronary arteries or in one of his valves or in the heart muscle itself.
All right. Very interesting. Okay, let's take just a very quick break and we'll be back in a while. Please stay with us.
The Law Society has slammed notices sent to 4 universities to jack up standards or risk losing their LLB courses.
The Council on Higher Education issued a stern warning to the universities to conform within 6 months.
I think it will affect the university. I think outside the law faculty, there's a funding issue.
It's been 112 years since Enoch Sontonga died as a relatively unknown composer, choir master and teacher. But today his legacy lives on through his greatest composition, Nkosi Sikeleli Afrika.
For all your news updates, stay tuned to Your World from Monday to Sunday.
Phones, cloud systems and robots have taken over a lot of what used to be done manually.
Our accounting system is actually based on the cloud.
Google nowadays can tell you where you parked your car.
And Africa's entrepreneurs are using technology to create.
With Pocket Masipala, you can basically do all the services that you would do at the municipality physically by going there, but you can now do them on a mobile app.
Join me, Spumelele Zondi, on Sundays at 9 p.m. on SABC News.
Have we taken enough responsibility for our responsibilities with regards to freedom?
Largely the moment of 1994, that moment of absolute magic. Firstly, the voting, and of course when we watched Nelson Mandela take that oath of office, was a moment that we thought, well, we've now reached freedom. This is it. This is all that it can be.
Off with the big story of the day, where Eugenie Bouchard beat Maria Sharapova for the first time. Bouchard upped the ante and closed off the 3-hour epic grudge match with a rousing performance to win the most highly anticipated match so far in this year's clay season. Final score 7-5, 2-6, 6-4. Title chasers Cape Town City FC travel to Pretoria, intent on grabbing 3 points from a resurgent SuperSport United.
Get all the dominating stories locally and globally on Newsroom every Monday to Friday from 9 a.m.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
Welcome back. We're talking arrhythmias, and with me in the studio is Dr. Pro Obel, specialist cardiologist and electrophysiologist at Milk Park Hospital. And we're now joined by another special guest, Tulufelo Hlongwane. Now, Tulufelo is somebody who's had arrhythmias and has a personal story to tell us. Welcome to Health Talk, Tulufelo.
Thank you, Doctor.
All right. I'm going to come back to you, but I just want us to go back to Dr. Obel to finish that discussion that we had started before we took the break on what's causing all of this. We spoke about the genetic factors of people born with some of these conditions. Let's carry on from there.
All right, if you get a disease which interrupts the normal function of any parts of the heart, in particular, let's say it interrupts the normal conducting system, which we spoke about earlier on, that abnormality that is caused in the conducting system can cause an abnormal rhythm.
To other conditions, right.
So and there are a variety of conditions that can cause that.
All right. Okay.
Inflammatory conditions, infections, infiltrations, a variety of conditions.
All right. What about lifestyle issues? You often hear people, talk about taking coffee and taking stimulants, taking all sorts of drugs, lifestyle issues that can be associated with development of arrhythmias.
Okay, so we take that in two different ways. Lifestyle can cause disease. So obesity and all of the things associated with obesity which cause high blood pressure, etc., may in itself cause disease, cause the heart to enlarge in itself, and that enlarging in itself causes destruction and abnormalities in the normal function. And doing that causes abnormalities in that function, including the conducting system and therefore abnormal rhythms. So that's the one way it can happen. And I think that what you're heading for is this whole question of caffeine.
Yeah.
And, well, there's a lot of talk recently about high energy and high caffeine drinks, etc. And these are important, but they are not the major thing that we talk about, but they are important.
Yeah.
The high caffeine drinks that young people have taken, in particularly in relation to sporting events, give the heart too much of a kick. And that kick can bring out any tiny little abnormality, can become a major abnormality. And that major abnormality can be very dangerous.
So it's basically being trigger factors, not necessarily that they cause disease themselves.
The caffeine, yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let's take Geraldine from Cape Town. Geraldine, welcome to Health Talk. Geraldine, are you there?
Yeah.
All right. Your question or comment, please, yeah?
I just wanted to ask the doctor why my heart suddenly, it just stopped dead and then it continues. It continues normally.
All right. I see Dr. Obel is nodding, so I presume that there's a response. Thank you very much for your question, Dr. Obel.
Well, I take it with that's what we call an extra systole. So there's an extra beat. She gets an extra beat. Now, those extra beats are usually benign. They usually don't matter very much.
Okay, so she shouldn't bother about...
Don't worry about it. All the reason that you think that it stops dead is that it takes the place of the normal beat that's coming along. So you just missed one.
All right. Okay, now, just the last part before we move to treatment now. We spoke earlier about, prevention and all of that. And, perhaps the starting point is people knowing what their normal pulse rates are. How do people measure their pulse rate?
Well, you're talking about should people take their own pulse? And should they learn how to take their own pulse?
That's the question, yes.
And the answer is yes.
And how do they do that?
And they do it by, I think you all know, your pulse lies just there, and you take your 2 or 3 fingers, and you learn how to take your pulse. And it's a simple thing. You practice and practice and practice, and you learn what's normal for you.
So basically you count the number of times you feel something bumping against your finger.
Right.
And how many times that happens in 1 minute.
That's it.
And that's your pulse rate.
And that's your pulse rate.
All right.
And you know what's normal for you.
Oh, great.
And if there's a departure, you think about it.
Very easy enough. Okay, let's welcome once again Tsulufelo Hlongwane. Tsulufelo, welcome once again, ma'am. You were diagnosed with arrhythmias. Do you want to perhaps just tell us your story a little bit? What happened?
I was at the gym. It was in 2013 in August.
Right.
It was two months after I ran and completed the Comrades. I did 2 Comrades marathon. And I felt a bit tired, that morning before I went to the gym. Actually, the night before, I felt a little bit, tired. I didn't feel that normal. But I thought it's because I was, working hard and, and we were supposed to go and train with my group. We were training for a city-to-city marathon, and they phoned me that night and they said, remember 5 o'clock, the next morning. So I said to them, no, I'm a little bit tired. I'll do the 10, instead of 21. I'll just do 10 on my own. And then I parked at the gym and I was going to run on the road to do the 10. But fortunately, it was cold that morning. It was extremely windy, and I thought, no, let me run on the treadmill. I'll train on the treadmill. And I was not that tired. I started slowly, and then I started regaining my strength. And I ran for about 30 minutes, and then I took a break, and then another 30 minutes. And then after that, I went to do a super circuit, and then I felt dizzy. And I felt this dizzy spell, and then I passed out. And when I woke up, I woke up with a pain, on my chest, as if somebody's sitting or pressing on my chest. And when I asked, I said, I have this pain. They said, no, we've just resuscitated you. We've just administered, we used a defibrillator. We had to do cardiac massage. And I was like, oh. So now what? They said, no, we're waiting for an ambulance. But I was quite hysterical. I was quite anxious. It was as if, I was going to die. So, and then the lady phoned my mom, and she said, her mother says, we must take her to Velgejevel. So, and then I thought, no, if I have just been resuscitated, I must go to Melpark. And then I went to Melpark, and the first doctor I met at Melpark, it was Dr. Kassel. And Dr. Kassel said to me that, oh, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to run tests. Probably because maybe you had a flu and then you went, you went to run and then it affected your heart, but let's just investigate. And he couldn't understand that I was fit. I mean, I was still wearing my gym clothes, sweaty and everything. He thought he couldn't understand I was, healthy, and, I collapsed at the gym. So he did a sauna, and then he involved Dr. Obel. I saw Dr. Obel the second day.
Before we get there now, yes. Dr. Obel, maybe let me just get one or two comments from you. She brings out two important issues. The one being that she probably had whatever it is that she had, and she was going on about her normal life. She was running. She was a runner. I mean, a fit runner. For you to be able to complete 2 Comrades marathons, it means that she was well. Now, the association between exercise and arrhythmias. Your comment, please, because we don't want to be creating wrong impressions out there. Your comment on the association between exercise, regular physical activity, and arrhythmias.
You've got to be sick for a start for exercise to cause the arrhythmias.
Right. Okay.
Finished.
Very good. To the point. All right. We're supposed to be talking treatment principles, and because she's now at the stage where she's in hospital, before she starts her story, let's talk a little bit about the principles of treatment for arrhythmias.
Well, the principles of treatment, in her case, I think it's quite clear. She was very fortunate. She was at a gym where there was an automatic defibrillator present.
Right.
And as it happens, there was also a doctor present who helped administer the CPR. And she was resuscitated successfully. So I think that the one thing that comes about is that gyms will bring out an abnormal, bring out a fatal arrhythmia in people who are sick with arrhythmias.
Right.
And for that reason, it's a good thing for gyms to have those defibrillators.
And I hope
around.
all of them do.
And I hope they all do.
All right. Let's take Bugelwa on the line from Soweto. Bugelwa, welcome to Health Talk.
Good day, doctor. It's about my son, who is 37 years.
Right.
He had an operation in 2009 for a double valve transplant, and he's on warfarin.
Yeah.
So I'd like to find out how long is this treatment going to take, because the time he does default and then his blood is not going to, it's not supposed to be thick or thin.
Yeah.
What must he do?
All right.
How long is he going to be on this kind of treatment? Because even the cardiologist, it was Dr. Manga, who stopped him from sport and all that, and was told that he's not supposed to bleed. Because I've got another question besides this one.
Let's take it quickly.
But now, on this one at the moment, please help me. How do we go about this whole thing? Because it's worrying. At times he comes, he's telling me that he's got dizziness. At times it's going, he has nose bleeds.
Okay. Do you want to just put your second question through quickly so we finish, yeah?
Okay, my second question now, with him not supposed to bleed, it's about circumcision.
Okay.
Does he qualify for that? not now in a daughter way, but in a cultural way, whereby I must go to do it in a Xhosa traditional way.
I get you. Thank you very much for those two excellent questions. Let's deal with the first one.
I'm not sure that I caught the first one exactly.
The first one is, she's got a 37-year-old son who had some cardiac procedure done, valve surgery, is now on warfarin. And she would like to know how long is he supposed to be on warfarin, and she mentioned something else, that he defaults from time to time on warfarin.
If he's had, excuse me, if he had valve surgery and he's on warfarin, he's going to be on warfarin for life.
For the rest of it. And the part about defaulting?
He's taking his life in his hands.
Okay. Second question is it safe for him to go and undergo circumcision the traditional way?
Certainly not.
Okay. Very simple questions. Okay. Simple answers as well. Okay. Let's get back to principles of treatment before we come to you. Yeah, you want to continue the story around,
So she was resuscitated from sudden death.
Right.
So fortunately, she was resuscitated, and we were in the position that we were able to try and find out why she had the sudden death episode. And she can really take it from there. We were, in fact, able to investigate her. And we found out that there was a cause in her case, and we were able to take it from there.
Yeah, we're still going to stay with her until the end of the show and to get her story. But I want us to just finish talking about the principles of treatment, because we have people that are on medication. We hear that there's surgery that is done on some people with arrhythmias. What are the principles for all of those conditions?
Well, the basic principle is, number one, if there's the condition that she had, which is called ventricular fibrillation, if there's a one-off cause, and there are not many of them, but heart attack is a one-off cause, it's possible to say it's going to happen once, it's not going to happen again. We treat the cause, and that's the end of the story. In some cases, the cause cannot be treated, and it's a perpetuating cause. In those kinds of cases, we know that there's the risk for repeated ventricular fibrillation.
Right.
And that's unfortunately the case in our friend.
All right.
So in that case, we put in a device that is going to handle the ventricular fibrillation should it occur again. That's called a defibrillator.
Okay.
So that's the first principle in that particular abnormal rhythm.
All right. Before we go to a break, let's just take Tebogo very quickly. Tebogo, welcome to Health Talk.
Good day. How are you, Doctor?
We're good. How are you?
Well, thank you. What I want to ask about, actually, I've read through my grandfather's stuff. He was a classmate of Prof. Obel, Pet Mokhobo.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to know is that in cardiac surgery, after cardiac surgery, atrial fib is imminent. Now, what is the best way to treat it? Is it rate control or is it rhythm control?
Right, great question. From a professional, obviously.
Yes.
Dr. Bell?
He's talking about atrial fibrillation.
Yes.
It depends on the stage of the atrial fibrillation. Give Pat my very best regards. And in the early stages of atrial fibrillation, we're in with a very good chance with rhythm control.
Right.
And in the final stages of atrial fibrillation, when we think it's permanent, it's rate control. In the middle, we can have an argument.
We're getting all educated here. All right, time for another quick commercial break. When we come back, we continue our story on arrhythmias. Please stay with us.
Well, a very good morning and welcome to AM News Live at 10:00 hours across all Central Africa regions.
A fitting send-off for a revolutionary giant, a life dedicated in service of the people.
The result means that swallows
out of the ABC Municipal League and drove to the amateur fourth tier of South African football, the SAB League.
Tune in on AM News every Saturday and Sunday from 10 hours.
This story is about what happens when we put our differences aside and we come together as a human race.
Salt makes its way out of the kitchen into the art studio.
Normally, salt is for food and stuff, but then here's salt.
Past couple of months, I've grown so much, and I'm just ready to impart what I've learned to the next Miss South Africa. I wasn't expecting this. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm feeling so overwhelmed.
For your weekly dose of entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
My pacemaker adventure started when I was 18 years old. I went in for knee surgery, just, a healthy 18-year-old athlete, going in to have some cleanup of my knees done because I was a competitive skier and windsurfer. And then I had the 15 minutes that changed my life. They did a pre-surgery EKG, and the strips are coming out, and the technician's eyes are getting really big. And I'm thinking, next thing you know, she explains they need to call the cardiologist in. And it actually kind of came out, hurry, call the cardiologist. And it turns out I was one of those kids that had a rare arrhythmia that we now today find, kids in playing sports that just drop dead. They didn't know why I lived as long as I did or how much longer I would live. So I did the logical thing and moved to Maui to windsurf because if I wasn't going to live very long, I may as well live life to the fullest. A year later, I came back and became one of the first experimental patients to have an AV ablation. It was kind of the equivalent of an electrical cattle prod. Go in, they electrocuted the entire AV node, and I ended up being 100% pacemaker dependent at the age of 19. So that was 30 years ago. I'm on my 7th pacemaker, and I have been a Boston Scientific patient that entire time, though it started as Intermedics and then went to Guidant, and now it's Boston Scientific. Every time I have a new one replaced, the technology is better, the heartbeats are smoother, there's a more realistic feel to the heartbeats, or the quality of the heartbeats. And each time I'm able to push harder, do more, to where we are today with my current pacemaker, which is truly the best heartbeats I've ever had in my life.
Since Heidi's pacemaker dependent, and obviously a very young and athletic individual, given her very high performance, we thought adding minute ventilation would at least give us the option of increasing her heart rate response to her really very, very vigorous exercise.
So I've been a pacemaker patient for 30 years, and during this entire 30 years I've also been an athlete. So having the opportunity to optimize my pacemaker with my coaches in a training facility for athletes was a great opportunity to see what it can do, how it really works, and can I get the performance that I really want out of it? But I had no idea, like, okay, so how does this happen? I assumed that it was going to be me on a bike pushing, but I didn't realize that it was me on a bike with a snorkel attached to me, with my wireless device being monitored, and every, few minutes pricking my finger to do blood tests to check for lactate thresholds. It was probably one of my most interesting training sessions.
All right, welcome back. We're talking obviously about arrhythmias, and as we've seen in this clip, that they can be beaten, they can be treated, and people can lead normal lives after treatment. We have with us in our studio Tsolofelo Hlongwane, one such person that has beat arrhythmias, is living a normal life, and of course with him Dr. Pro Obel, specialist cardiologist and electrophysiologist based at Milton Park Hospital. Before we continue our discussion, we have Walter on the line from the Eastern Cape. Welcome to Health Talk, Walter.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Your question, please.
Doctor, I used to cycle, my age is 73, and I used to cycle 40 kilometers every second day. And one night I just got dizzy and I collapsed with no pain or any painful symptoms in the arm. Then they rushed me to Bloemfontein and they inserted a stent. But after going now for a checkup, they said to me they did an ECG and said it will always be, and a sonar, it will always show abnormal because the heart muscle has thickened. Now, what causes the heart muscle to thicken?
Interesting question. Thank you very much, Walter. Dr. Abel, long-term athlete, what causes his heart to thicken?
He sounds like a young man.
73, quite a young.
He's 73.
Yeah.
His heart muscles thicken. Well, the commonest cause of that would be high blood pressure at his age. The second commonest cause might be an abnormal valve. Otherwise, he might have what we call hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is a condition in which the heart muscle thickens just because of something that he's inherited.
Yeah. Well, he's been cycling, he says he cycled 40 kilometers every second day.
40 kilometers every second day, which is another cause of the heart muscle thickening.
Right.
And in fact, we have measurements which we reserve for cyclists.
Yeah.
For the upper limit of normal for cyclists is a little bit higher than it is for other human beings.
Yes, but just so that we dispel myths, it's not pathological.
It may not be pathological in his case.
Okay.
The fact that he's getting pains in his chest makes me want to know what the measurements are.
All right. So let's get back then to treatment, obviously, and Tsolofelo, I'm going to involve you. Perhaps let's hear from you. What treatment then you got?
Okay. I had an ICD implanted. It's an internal defibrillator that will shock the rhythm, the arrhythmia should it happen again. And then I'm on medication as well, oral medication.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about the principle of the ICD now. It's more to save her life more than treating the cause.
Yeah.
Just explain that a bit.
When she had her original abnormal rhythm, her heart was beating very fast, faster than 300 beats a minute, in the bottom chamber, the ventricle. And the only way to get that back to normal, as I said right in the beginning, is to shock it. And so they did that with an external defibrillator. And you've all seen those things in the movies where they put the paddles on and then there's bang and the body jumps.
Right.
Now the defibrillator is that miniaturized. So it's a miniaturized version of that which is implanted in her.
Right. Then we had in the clips some reference to ablation and other forms of surgery. What other forms of surgery is out there?
Well, amongst the things that cause abnormal rhythms are abnormal circuits. And these circuits can either be very, very small or they can be relatively large. If they're relatively large, we can get at them and destroy those abnormal circuits. and we can destroy them either with by passing a probe into the heart and isolating those circuits, finding them, isolating them, and passing in a little electrical current, like a cautery current, and getting rid of those circuits. We call that an ablation. Okay. So that's the basis of that. Yeah.
All right, back to you, Tsolofelo. So the message clearly is that you can lead a normal life after being diagnosed and being on treatment like you are. Tell us your thoughts about your lifestyle now.
Yes, you can live a normal life, you know, after that. The only issue, like with me, this arrhythmia, I've noticed that it is, okay, I was diagnosed with a cardiac sarcoidosis. That was the cause of the arrhythmia, because when they investigated and did the biopsy, they found a sarcoidosis on the ventricle. So now each time I try to run or run fast, and then, you know, I get a dizzy spell and I pass out. But fortunately, like, I don't pass out for a long time because it shocks, you know. But I think the last time it happened was last year in June. I am living a normal life, but the exercise that I used to do, I'm now, you know, limited. I can only exercise with a group, like I can do aerobic exercises because, you know, it's safer in a class and, you know, there are people that I know around. But I cannot go out, you know, to the street and run on my own. I do walk. I can go out to the street and walk, but I cannot, you know, run because it's always at the back of my mind that it can happen again because it once happened. And even on the treadmill as well, I no longer run freely on the treadmill. But I do socialize. I do go out, you know.
That's the important part.
Yes.
You live a normal life.
A normal life, yes.
Let's take perhaps our last caller for this program. Dee from Cape Town. Dee, welcome to Health Talk. Dee, are you there? Dee is not there. All right. Your final thoughts now, Dr. Obel, now on what people should do, people that have been diagnosed that are on treatment, to continue living normal lives.
I think that your best way to live a normal life is to get the best treatment available.
Right.
I think that it's very important that if you have got symptoms and you're getting treatment and you're still getting symptoms, look for other treatment.
Right. Look for somebody else to give you proper treatment.
Yeah.
So on that positive note, that we'll leave it. Dr. Pro Obel, specialist cardiologist and electrophysiologist based at Bill Park Hospital, and of course, Tsolofelo Hlongwane, a patient living with arrhythmias. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Folks, it's on that note that we come to the end of our show today. Please remember that we'll see you again next week, same time on SABC. And if you've missed any of the shows that we've had previously, you can access them from the YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Sello Mutang. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the calls. Please do take care.